In the past, I always thought that everything that I ever wanted was on the other side of yes. That's not the answer. The answer is no. Learn how to say no. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Some of you call me EJ. I'm the guy on social media who wants to build a legacy for his kids and pass on all of these life and business lessons to each and every one of you. As I mentioned in my intro, I always was a yes man. I wasn't pleasing anybody, but I wanted to be of service. In relationships, I was the one who was trying to fix things without ever giving up. That's in my DNA. I just keep working hard on things and I just don't give up. But at some point, you need to understand that you can't say yes to every single thing. You need to actually learn how to say no. Because time is our most valuable resource in life. When we have time, we can allocate it to all of those areas that we are interested in. And after that, we can focus on the relevant topics. And when we focus, we can work hard. And by working hard, we get really good at it. You guys know this formula, right? But understanding that time is valuable wasn't enough for me. I also needed to understand that we can gain time in two different ways. Number one, we can buy time. And number two, we can make time. And believe it or not, it wasn't until recently when I realized that I can actually make time for myself by learning how to say no. But first, let's talk about buying time. I'm sure everybody knows that we can buy time by outsourcing some of the work that we are supposed to do. Let's say in my house, full disclosure, I have not cleaned in 10 or 15 years because I have somebody doing it for me. I do other things. I cook, I go to the grocery store, I mow my lawn, I do plenty of stuff. I would say probably too much, given the fact that I still need to focus more and more and more in the future to get really, really good at those things that I want to be good at. But cleaning is one example. Gardening is one, as I mentioned, mowing your lawn. We can buy time by purchasing that or buying that service from somebody else who's good at it, who's interested in doing it. And then what we can do with that time, we can spend that time with our loved ones, with our family members, and create memories, create experiences. That's what traveling is all about, right? So you leave town, you buy that time to be with your kids, and that memory lasts a lifetime. There's nothing better than that. Okay, that was the buying time part of the equation. What about making time? I created a video about maker manager type stuff, meaning people typically fall into these two categories. So you could be a manager whose main objective in corporate world is to have a bunch of meetings, check the pulse from this guy, from this team, whether we are making progress or not. How are we doing? Let's set the deadline. Let's sit down. I want to see, I want to feel, I want to understand what's going on, versus then the creator or the maker actually wants the opposite. He or she wants to have as much empty space on his or her calendar as possible to put that creative hat on and focus on the things that move maybe slower forward, but are very, very important. And I just a couple of years ago actually understood that I had been focusing way too much on the manager tasks. And that happened when I realized that my own company wasn't doing enough creative work. Those things that actually move the ball forward in giant leaps. And that's when I realized that I really need to learn how to say no in order to get good at making time for myself. So this was the personal side of the story. So time is the most valuable resource, and we can gain time by buying it and by making it. And no is the key answer in making that time for ourselves that is so valuable. What about business life then? I'm going to cover the basics and then give you a 4-step approach how an established business can actually get to the next level by learning how to say no when it comes to identifying the key customers. But if we think about business, let's divide this conversation into two buckets. So those company owners or business owners who are just starting, what is it that we need the most? I put myself in that category, if you noticed, by the way, because I'm pivoting. I'm doing this social media thing and I'm launching my business coaching career at the same time. So I need the same focus as everybody else who's taking the first steps in becoming a business owner. Okay, so what is it that we need the most? We need focus. Because we can't assume that if we divide our 100% time and allocate it to 4 or 5 different projects, that means that 20% of my time goes to project 1, same thing with 2, 3, 4, and 5. How can I ever imagine that I can compete against somebody who puts his or her all into that same business, meaning 100%? It's not possible. The entrepreneur with the most distractions is the easiest to beat. Okay, so that was the starting entrepreneur path. What about the ones who are already at that 1 or 2 million a year level with their business? You guys have your established product line, your service, your employees. You know what it takes to get a customer or convert those leads into customers and how to run a business. But maybe you struggle to take your company to the next level. In addition to promoting your business for 4 hours a day, what you need to do next is to identify who your key customers are. The 80-20 rule applies here as well, meaning 20% of the customers bring in usually 80% of the profits. How do we get there? How do we know which customers we say no to and which customers are the ones that we focus all of our efforts on in the future? What I have seen based on my experience is that most of the businesses, even the companies in 10 or 20 million level annually, don't have enough metrics in place. Yes, we all need to have our profit and loss, cash flow statements, and our balance sheets where we can see what our annual turnover is, what's the cost of goods sold, what's the gross profit, what's EBITDA, and so forth. But we don't necessarily track the 4 next important metrics that we all need to master in order to take our company to the next level. And what are those? Number 1 is churn. What is churn? Churn is the number that tells us how many customers we lose on any given period. Let's say in the beginning of the month, I have 100 customers. At the end of the month, I have lost 5. I have 95 left. So my churn is 5%. Metrics number 2. We need to understand what the lifetime value of a customer is, meaning the revenue. Number 3, what is the gross profit of a customer? And number 4, how much does it cost to acquire new customers? When we have those data points in place, we can create ourselves a matrix. So the 4-step approach was step number 1, make sure that you have, in addition to your normal annual statements, profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow, you have at least these 4 metrics in place. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is that you create yourself a matrix where you plug these data points in. Step number 3 is that you create that matrix and you add your subjective data points, which are also very crucial. Customers that are easiest to work with. If my product line 1 typically has the easiest customers to work with, do they pick up the phone calls? Do I get feedback from them? Can I have a dialogue with them? It's up to the entrepreneur to know what those subjective data points are. So when we have steps 1, 2, and 3 in place, number 4 is based on that matrix. We can say these 20% of the customers are the ones that we say yes to, and the remaining 80% are the no people or the no customers. There's nothing wrong with them, but if we want to grow our company, we need to be sometimes very decisive in being able to say no so that we can say yes to the right people. This is hard. This is super, super hard in life, whether it's our personal lives or our business lives, saying no to money. But we need to practice saying no so that we can get better in the future, so that it's easier and more profitable for our growing business. A couple of personal stories in the end. I have actually said no to 2 major sales in my life. These were both high value real estate transactions because I learned my lessons from the past. And in the past, I once had an overly eager, enthusiastic customer who I at first thought that, that's great. I mean, I have a person who goes on her own to measure the floors and help me with material decisions and all of that. But it wasn't until a couple of months later when I realized that eagerness, those emotions in the beginning, willingness to buy, turn into the same emotional issues after the sale was finalized. So luckily I learned my lessons. I had a couple of similar experiences too. And then later on in my life, this was the one that I referred to was actually one of my first triplexes, a new construction project. And then later on in my life, I was able to identify similar qualities when it comes to buyers. And I said no. It helped me because the market was hot and there was plenty of demand. It would have been a whole different ball game if the market had been slow like it is today. And then saying, stick to your guns, saying no to that 100% deal and being willing to wait for the money to come later. That's still to be tested, but I'm happy that those subjective measures that I had in place when it comes to what the ideal buyer looks like were actually in place when it comes to those 2 cases. This was all I wanted to say today, a brief video about the importance of learning how to say no. First, when it comes to time management in our personal lives, how to buy time, how to make time with that no, and then as a business owner, first in the beginning to focus on the right activity because that's all we have. And then when we have an established business, these 4 steps, how we can identify the most lucrative, profitable customers and the easiest to work with so that we can say yes to them and no to everybody else. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you for watching.